There are many definitions of stress like the ones you can read here. A common definition of stress is attributed to psychologist Richard Lazarus, who said that stress is a condition or feeling experienced when a person perceives that demands exceed the personal and social resources the individual is able to mobilize. Nowadays, stress is the word that many people use when they are describing how the demands of their life seem to be becoming too great for them to cope with. When we talk about the stress response, there are two main systems at play. The first one is the nervous system, and the second one is the endocrine system. Let's have a quick look at the nervous system. The nervous system has got two major divisions: the central nervous system, which has two parts, the spinal cord and the brain, and the peripheral nervous system. This peripheral nervous system has got two divisions. The first, the somatic nervous system, which has to do with receiving sensory information from the body and voluntary control of body movements. The second, the autonomic nervous system, which is all about involuntary things that happen in the body, things you don't have to actively think about, such as temperature control, digestion, pupillary response, sexual arousal, and so on. This autonomic nervous system can be further broken down into two parts. The sympathetic nervous system, which is the activating part of the stress response, often called the fight or flight mode. When faced with a threat, this system becomes active. The parasympathetic nervous system is the balancing part. It looks after resting, calming, and rebalancing the body to reach a state called homeostasis, or a balanced state. Before we put it all together and explain this stress response, let's look quickly at the simplified endocrine system. The endocrine system, or the chemical messenger system, is made of a collection of glands that produce hormones that regulate metabolism, growth and development, reproduction, sleep, and so on. This system also plays an important part in the stress response, especially if we look at the pituitary gland, or the master gland, and the adrenal glands located on top of the kidneys. So, how does it all work? Let's explore the brain. The brain is divided into four brains. The cortex, or cerebrum, the largest part of the brain, mostly responsible for thoughts and actions. The little brain, or cerebellum, associated with regulation and coordination of movement, posture, and balance. The limbic system, or emotional brain, controlling basic emotions and drives. And the brainstem, controlling the flow of messages between the brain and the body, as well as controlling basic body functions. When we talk about the stress response, we need to look closely at the limbic system and the role of some of its components. The thalamus, relaying sensory signal to the cortex. The hippocampus, playing an important part in the consolidation of memories. The amygdala, responsible for detecting fear and sounding the alarm. The hypothalamus, linking the nervous system to the endocrine system to respond to fear. So when someone experiences a stressful event, the amygdala sends a distress signal to the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus acts as the command center. It activates the pituitary gland, or the master gland, to produce and release hormones into the bloodstream to activate the autonomic nervous system. All of these processes happen without conscious awareness. The adrenal glands are activated, releasing adrenaline into the bloodstream. The heart beats faster, the blood is pushed to the muscles and other vital organs. Blood pressure increases, the airways open up more oxygen is absorbed and sent to the brain to be more alert. All the senses become more alert. Adrenaline triggers the release of glucose, which is blood sugar, and fats to supply more energy to the body. All of this happens without anyone realizing. As the initial surge of adrenaline subsides, the hypothalamus directs the master gland to produce the ACTH hormone, the adrenocorticotropic hormone, which tells the adrenal glands to produce cortisol, allowing the body to stay on high alert. This is a typical stress response. Your body is now ready to face the stressor. To use an analogy, let's look at the animal world. A zebra could be peacefully grazing in the savannah when a stressor or a threat appears, in this case, a lion. The stress response I described would kick in automatically, and the zebra would run for its life. Assuming that it is lucky and that the threat is no longer there, the zebra would return to grazing. The parasympathetic system would kick in and restore balance. Hormone levels return to normal, adrenaline and cortisol levels drop, and our zebra can resume its grazing. This is a perfectly healthy stress response. There is a threat, there is a reaction, and there is a return to normal. The kind of stresses we are exposed to in our contemporary context are chronic, long-term stresses, and not short-term life-threatening situations. Society has evolved faster than our brain. For most part, we can say that we are safe now, but our brain perceives everyday symbolic threats as life and death situations. Constant deadlines, time pressure, crowds, traffic, family concerns, city life, a boss who doesn't like you, to name a few, are the kind of stresses we face each day. Our sympathetic nervous system is constantly activated. Our body is flooded with stress hormones, and in the long run, our parasympathetic system cannot cope with the act of balancing. Over time, the elevated levels of stress hormones can lead to serious problems, both physical, such as hypertension, heart attack, stroke, insomnia, diabetes, fertility problems, and psychological, such as social withdrawal, anxiety, depression, to name a few. The good news is that there is an element of control. To clarify one thing here, I am talking about normal stress, not stress related to a biological or psychological disorder where you would need to see a health professional. But talking about normal stress. If we go back to the work of Lazarus using his cognitive psychological approach, stress is a human response to the perception of a threat and vulnerability you see in a stressor. Although you might not have control over the stressor, you have some control over your appraisal and your response. With this course, you will be working with your cognition and your unconscious mind to bring back that control. The more control you have, the less stress you will experience.